how I hit GM in Marvel Rivals as a complete beginner. Now let me tell you, this was not easy. One, because I have comms off. All right, people are crazy. And I was new and learning the game, and I just didn't know how the game was played, and I didn't feel like having anyone just yelling at me being like, yo, what are you doing, blah blah blah, that's not what you do, you know. Like I had to learn the game. So that's the first thing. Second thing was I solo queued like 99%. I played a couple of games with some of my friends, but it's not like elo changing games, right? I probably wouldn't want the same score if I had played with or without them. Pretty much solo queue, new to the game. I had to learn the whole game. So I'm gonna kind of tell you how I did it and try to give you some tips on your solo queue journey as well. So I started playing this game on release and I wanted to rank up, right? That was one of my goals, to play and actually rank up and play competitive, not just play quick play all day. Although quick play is pretty fun, I feel like. Now the two characters that I played when I first started playing were Psylocke and Jeff. Those were the first two characters. One, because Psylocke I wanted to play like a hard character. She had like the 5-star difficulty. And I played Jeff because it's Jeff. I didn't know about war criminal or anything like that. I just knew Jeff. I thought it was cool. Now I'm pretty new to the hero shooter genre. I remember I have this memory from when I was a kid, right? And I didn't have a console or anything like that. I learned about Overwatch. I remember asking my parents for an Xbox and Overwatch, and I drew a picture of the Xbox and I drew a picture of the Overwatch logo. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want for Christmas or whatever, or my birthday. Never got it, never played Overwatch, so here we are today. I wanted to play DPS, I wanted to play Psylocke because I just, you know, I wanted to. Like DPS seemed like the cool position, I guess. So I played some ranked games and a lot of early on games, back when like everybody was bronze and silver or whatever. People would be like, oh, get off DPS, DPS is not for you, blah blah blah, or you're not doing anything on DPS. And to be fair, part of them were right. Like I really didn't know what I was doing on DPS. I just knew like shoot, so I was just like standing there shooting the tank. I didn't know why I was shooting the tank. I just thought like, you know, shoot that person. So this led to me early on playing probably a lot of support in my ranked games. Part of it was a decision. I was like, you know what, if people are going to keep complaining about me playing DPS, let me just play support and watch and see what the other DPS do, either on my team or the enemy team. Watch what those DPS do and try to learn. And another thing that I did too was I watched like 𝘛𝘸𝘪𝘵𝘭𝘭𝘰𝘸 and 𝘍𝘰𝘭𝘭𝘰𝘩 and SK. I just started watching everyone that I could play the game and see what they do and try to incorporate what they did into my gameplay. Now I knew I didn't want to be stuck playing only support. I wanted to eventually move up to the DPS role and be able to play DPS, but basically I just want to be a well-rounded player, right? I want to be able to play tank, DPS, and support, be able to flex and play all of them. But I really wanted to learn how to play DPS. I didn't know how to play DPS. So the character that I picked up and started trying to learn how to play DPS as well after Psylocke was Spider-Man. And to be honest, my Spider-Man's not bad, but whenever I try to play Spider-Man in ranked, everyone just says that like Spider-Man is a throw pick. But I also feel like his damage output is not really that high. But I thought Spider-Man was cool. He looked cool. I was watching 𝘛𝘸𝘪𝘵 and I was like, yeah, I want to play Spider-Man. So I started learning how to play Spider-Man. And that was like the DPS that I picked up. Another thing too is as I was playing the game, I started to learn terms like peeling for somebody or flanking. Like who are the ones to flank? And surprisingly, it's a DPS. I didn't know. Right? I started to realize that the map had 3 lanes. The main and the left and the right side, and you could flank, blah blah blah. I just started learning the maps. Like I said, I was still watching other players and people on my team. I started to learn that part of the strategy for some characters is to go straight for the supports because the support is the lifeline of the other team. So if you can manage to take out the support, then they don't have any heals. Wow, crazy. I know. Another thing that I learned was like dive composition. Like what exactly is a dive composition and why do you want to do the dive, and like what's the counter to dive. And as I was learning and watching, playing support, I'd be able to learn like, okay, so when I'm a DPS, I might not want to travel that far from my invisible woman because she doesn't really have as far a range as like Luna or Jeff or Rocky. Even Rocky, you can just sit there and hold right click. So I started to think about these things like, okay, when I play other roles, like what are my supports doing, right? My supports sometimes will get dove by Iron Fist or Venom or Spider-Man or Black Panther or Captain America or Thor So in those situations, if I'm playing another role, what do? Right? Gotta look back depending on what character I'm playing. I also somehow learned how to play Doctor Strange. I don't know when or why I picked up Doctor Strange. I think I just started playing a lot of different characters. I think this game is very fun. And I don't really just want to play one character, even though if I were to pick one that I would play all the time, it would be Spider-Man. But I feel like sometimes Spider-Man just doesn't work, and you gotta know how to play other characters. So I played supports, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange. I feel like I was playing pretty good on tank. I kind of like the tank role. I still want to play DPS, but I learned how to play tank as Doctor Strange, and same thing, you know, like from the experience playing support, I was able to be like, oh, instead of walking straight to their backline and being like, why am I not getting heals? Well, maybe something's going on in my backline. Maybe I need to look back and see if there's a Spider-Man or an Iron Fist or just someone diving my backline. And this led to me really starting to watch like the kill feed. Believe it or not, in the beginning, I didn't really look at the kill feed. Like everything just happened so fast, right? I was still absorbing things and gathering my game sense and just building it off. I didn't really look at the kill feed, but later on as I got experience, as I learned like the maps and the flank routes and things like that, I started to pay attention to the kill feed and checking the overall like team stats or whatever, because you can see on the enemy team like who's respawning. And just learning when to use your ult is something I learned as well later on. Like, do you want to use a defensive ult? Are you going to hold on to your ult and wait for their supports to ult and then use your ult after? Let's say you're like Strange or you're like Spider-Man, right? Because these are the characters that I played. I would learn to wait for their supports to ult, and then I would basically get a free ult or a big ult. But I still wanted to play DPS. I did hit GM, and I pretty much did it playing support, but I did learn something kind of interesting. We'll talk about that later. But I noticed probably from like Plat to Diamond that the biggest gap in my games were in the DPS. I felt like our tanks would do everything that they could as support. You know, we were doing the best that we could, but we just were not getting it done. And trying to figure out why, you know, looking at the stats at the end of the game, I feel like it would be DPS. Either we didn't have DPS that could pump out a lot of damage. DPS like Bucky, Punisher, 𝘍𝘰𝘭𝘭𝘰𝘸, and the more, they can just constantly pump out damage. Squirrel Girl, constantly pump out damage. So these are things that I started to become conscious of the higher up I got. And, you know, like I said, still watching these DPS players, because deep in my mind I wanted to play DPS, but I still didn't feel like I would be good at DPS. I think another thing too is I just had to start playing more DPS, like just picking DPS. I don't want to let my team down. I didn't want, you know, the people I was playing with to lose, so I just kind of kept playing what I was good at. Strange, Spider-Man if I really like got a Venom or had the opportunity to, and support. Crazy thing, 2 games before I hit Grandmaster, I did get to pull out the Spider-Man because they had like an Iron Man on their team and our team just wasn't getting it done, and we were in a triple support comp and I just started playing Spider-Man. I just made the decision. I was like, you know what, I can play Spider-Man into this. I think it'll do pretty good. And we actually ended up carrying the game and turning it around and winning. And I just remember like how good it felt being able to turn around the game just because I made the swap to the character that I actually wanted to play, and it was in a situation where it would actually work. And I remember the Magic going after we finished the first round. They were like, yo, I want to go Magic so I can die with my Spider-Man. I was like, hey, yo. I was like, I just did it because they had an Iron Man, but if you guys want me to play more Spider-Man, I'll play more Spider-Man. So we ended up getting a Venom, and I went back to playing Spider-Man. Later on, obviously, I did switch back to support only because we had one support, and I was like, yeah, this is just not going to work. But it was pretty cool to have that experience, and it kind of gave me the confidence, like, okay, I can probably DPS a little bit. I probably got to learn some of the other characters, but I feel like I could DPS a little bit. And if you guys are wondering why did I never play Psylocke, I got Lord Psylocke and then pretty much never played Psylocke again. Now, the crazy thing that I noticed, I played Spider-Man, Strange, and Cloak and Dagger. These are like my top 3 played characters of Season 1. Now, my Strange, I finished the season with a 51% win rate. My Spider-Man, I ended up finishing the season with a 53% win rate. And my Cloak and Dagger, I finished the season with a 45% win rate. So the character that I pretty much played the most, I had a losing win rate. And I was like, dang, looking back at this, I probably could play like another role and do pretty good. I was surprised that my Spider-Man games were like winning win rate in comp. I was surprised. And my Strange games too, 51%. So looking at these numbers, I was like, yo, maybe in the next season I'll play more DPS. Kind of leading to my goal right now. I hit GM, I got the crest. I pretty much proved to myself that I can hit GM. So now what I want to do is start playing like more DPS. Start to become more of a main DPS player. But I think overall I just want to start playing more DPS characters. I tried to play a little bit of Storm like in quick match. I don't know how I like Storm, but I also think I just need to play more of Storm. Sometimes your DPS will blame the supports for not healing, but the DPS will also walk around corners out of line of sight. This is a big thing that I learned playing a lot of support. Like, when you're playing another role, you gotta be conscious of where your supports are, what the enemy team composition is to see if your supports are gonna get dove like crazy. And you just gotta pay attention to like where you are in the map, like map knowledge. Like if you walk around this corner, you push up too far, are your supports gonna be able to see you and actually heal you? Because then you're gonna be blaming them for not healing you, but they're gonna be like, bro, like we had an XYZ on us and we just couldn't heal you. We're too busy healing each other. So yeah, I think this season at 1.5, I'm gonna try to play more DPS. I wanna become a DPS main, but this is pretty much how I hit Grandmaster. Hopefully it helps you hit GM. If you have any like questions or anything like that, feel free to leave a comment, like and a sub, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.